Okay, hopefully you can all hear me. Thank you for joining. Thanks very much for being here. Dom says he may have to walk home. So yes, it is a snowy day in Yorkshire. It's great to be here. This is the One Yorkshire series of events. I'm delighted that I'm running about 11 of them, which is brilliant. So thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me. And we're here to talk about search engine optimization today, SEO. If you do have questions, please use the Q&A. Please use the chat. If you've seen me before, you'll know that I really do welcome questions in both the chat and the Q&A. Please use the chat to network. So drop your LinkedIn URLs and make sure you've selected panelists and attendees so everyone can see what you're saying. So without further ado, let's get started. So this, as I said, this is how to climb the Google ladder. It would be quite good to just get a feel for the room. Maybe drop a number into the chat. How strong are you at search engine optimization? So 1 being, oh, really not very good at all, and 10 being, I totally understand search engine optimization. Where would you say you are? Just drop a number out of 10 in the chat for me. So we've got some 5s, 4s, 3s, 7s. 4 on a good day. So we've got no 10s. Thank you for that. And what are you hoping? Is there anything in specifically that you're hoping to get out of this session today? Because if I can mold it for you, then I really will happily. So is there a specific area of search engine optimization that you're wanting to know more of? Matthew's saying it feels like a bit like trying to grab a handful of jelly. Once you think you've grasped it, the rules seem to change. I've never heard of that analogy before, but what a great analogy. I would agree with that. Yeah, Google is forever changing the game. And in fact, I wrote a blog in 2004. I wrote a blog, which is very early on for writing a blog, by the way. And what is it, 16, 17 years ago, and the title of the blog was playing in Google's unfair playground, something along that line. And you're absolutely right. The rules do forever change. Catherine talks about SEO on WordPress. So I'm probably not going to go too deep into WordPress because because so many people use so many different things. But everything I talk about can be applied on every website. But I do recommend Yoast on WordPress. Just having said that, I wasn't going to go into it. Yoast is quite a good plugin, but I wouldn't get too stuck on what it says either. As in, sorry, I find it a bit prescriptive at times, so I wouldn't get too stuck on you having to make the lights green, if that means anything to any of you. And people are looking for results. Optimizing mobile versus desktop. Hopefully we'll cover that. So yeah, feel free to network in there as well. Thanks so much for joining. It's good to have got to know the room. This is aimed at businesses looking to get more relevant traffic from Google, individuals wanting to understand more about technical SEO. It's aimed at intermediates, but I can cover all, so don't worry too much. I will try to bring up beginners, but there's lots of jargon, so bear with me. This is fully recorded, so you will get a copy of this afterwards. It'll be available on YouTube. Probably not going to reach the advanced of you, I'm afraid, but hopefully a really good reminder. But you never know. But feel free to challenge me and ask me questions. For those that don't know me, I've got a digital marketing agency. We do all sorts of different digital marketing, but my strong background is search engine optimization. I am going to tell this story because it's totally relevant for this session today. So if you've heard it before, I apologize. And I was thinking of time I wasn't going to, but I'm just going to quickly tell it because it's totally relevant. It's about search engine optimization. I'm a qualified optician, gives me lots of credibility to be sat here talking to you about SEO, doesn't it? Not really. Anyway, we set up an e-commerce site selling sunglasses back in '99. It was the biggest sunglass retailer in the UK for about 5 years. We knew that from our buying power. We were buying from all the big manufacturers, Gucci, Armani, Oakley, Bollé, Chanel, Prada, Dior, you name it. We had every single brand of sunglass direct from the manufacturer, and we knew from our buying power that we were bigger than Shade Station, than Debenhams, etc., etc. And it was a great business. It was really flying, and we were at the top of Google for every single keyword to do with sunglasses, designer sunglasses, Armani sunglasses, red sunglasses, you name it, we were at the top. Overnight, sales dropped. Didn't know why. Took us a month to realize. This was in 2004. It's a long time ago digitally. Took us a month to realize why. We looked at Google Analytics, but only once a month. We only looked once a month, and we just couldn't work out what was going wrong. We just assumed that we were still at the top of Google. No, we'd been pushed to page 7 of Google, and it took us a month to realize we were on page 7 for absolutely every keyword. For even just our brand name, we were on page 7 of Google. We were employing some SEO agencies at the time. In fact, well, one at a time, but we'd been through a few, tried different ones, and it was working. We were at the top of Google. It was great. We spent thousands of pounds with these agencies over an 18-month period, and at the end of it, we were still on page 7 of Google. So in 2005, we were still on page 7, and over that time, we lost 40% of our turnover. So I became really frustrated with the SEO industry. They're telling us what to do, and we were still on page 7. In the end, I found a guy in New York who was on $250 an hour, but within 2 weeks, he got us back to page 1 of Google. And I learned a huge amount. As I said, became really frustrated with the industry. And he says he never worked for Google, but honestly, the stuff he was telling me and what he was showing me, I mean, it just made me think, I'm sure you maybe used to work at Google. And but it really helped me understand how Google thinks, and applying so much common sense to it as well. And so I learned a huge amount of my skill, my search engine optimization skill, by unwinding a website that we owned, and it was a painful journey, and I've then since gone off to help businesses understand what SEO is all about. So I thought it was probably very important to just explain the story and help you understand how I've got to understand search engine optimization. As I said, it's my core skill. So quick overview of web traffic. We've got organic traffic, which is natural traffic. You type something into Google, and this is what today is all about. We're trying to appear high in Google naturally, organically, and that's what you see in the listings when you type something in. Paid traffic is the AdWords, the pay-per-click stuff right at the top. Display traffic is images, adverts, where maybe you've been on to a particular brand of website, you then go on to other websites, and all of a sudden you see adverts for that first website you went on, and that's remarketing, and it's display traffic. Social traffic from social media platforms, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, etc. Email traffic from MailChimp and other well-known email marketing platforms. Referral traffic is where you get a link on someone else's website and they link through to you. Now that's very, very relevant for search engine optimization. So the two that we're focusing on is organic, natural traffic, where people naturally find you, and referral traffic. That's where people see you on another website, click the link, come to you, and that's classed as referral traffic. So for example, if you had a link on the BBC website, the BBC is a very trusted platform. It will be a gold dust link. It will be a great place to have a link. And what that says to Google is that, if a trusted website is linking to you and talking about you, then there could be a good reason for that. So the more of those links that we have, typically it was about the number of links. Now it's about the quality and the relevancy of those links. And that's what referral traffic is. And then direct traffic is where they just type you into the top of the browser, and that's where you see. Well, just tell me a keyword, any keyword, you might all shout at once, but a keyword that you want to be at the top of Google for. Let's just make this a bit more interactive. So a keyword that you want to be at the top of Google for, and I've totally lost my mouse. Absolutely no idea where it is at all. It's not there. Oh no. I need a mouse. Oh, hold on. God, this is going to be tough. Wow. Okay. I'm going to go for interior design. I hope my mouse comes. Oh no, this is going to be a big problem. Does anyone know how to solve this problem and get my mouse back? Bear with me. Right. Okay, so interior design. So what we're seeing here is we've got maps listings. So these map listings here are natural organic listings. Google Maps, Google Local, Google My Business, whatever you want to call it. These are local maps listings. And then as I scroll down, we've got people also ask. So I wouldn't say I've quite asked a question, but Google sort of thinks I have and is sort of suggesting some questions other people may ask. This is what other people have typed into Google. And by the way, it's a great way to find more questions and keywords, because if you want to be found for a keyword or a question, you need that keyword or question on your website. So if you want to be at the top of Google for interior design, then it would be good to have a look at these. And you'll see there's 4 here, but as I open one, what you'll see is more appear underneath. And as I open another, we get more appearing. These are all organic, natural listings. And this one at the top is typically what might be used, or sorry, I apologize. In all of these, typically is what might be used when you use Alexa to ask a question, or when you use Google to ask it to voice search. These are typically the answers that are then given, but it's all organic, and all of this is organic as well. I've not triggered an advert on this particular search. These are organic natural listings. I've got a couple of extra toolbars that I've added onto my Google page here, which you might be looking at and thinking, what are these? So this is the Moz bar, and what this bar does is it tells me the page authority and the domain authority of this particular website. These are scores out of 100 measured by a company called Moz, who, if you go back many years, were pretty much in bed with Google, and I think is a very good reflection on what Google thinks of you as a website out of 100. So if I'm as an SEO person, I'm interested to see all the time, can I break into page 1? Can I get into position 1? And so having this toolbar just gives me a very quick indication of where a client I'm working for potentially is in relation to other results on the page. So here we've got a domain authority of 85. Here we've got a domain authority of 47 out of 100. The average domain authority is about 25 out of 100. So don't panic if you check it and you find out that yours is quite low. Moz.com is, I don't suggest you need the paid subscription, but with the free subscription, you can check your domain authority. You can check 10 times a month your domain authority or your competitor's domain authority. And but with the Moz bar, you've got unlimited based on what's on your screen at the time. It just shows you everything. And then page authority shows you the page authority out of 100 for that particular page. So these are organic, natural listings. And then I was just seeing if we've got some ads. Yes, here we go. We've got some adverts as well. So at the bottom here, these are adverts, and they're that paid traffic. Okay, so if I just go back a step, organic is the key one, and then referral is those links coming to the website. So what is search engine optimization all about? Well, it's really simple, actually. It's about having great content. If you've got really good content, then that is half of the problem, half of the battle. So it's about having content that people want, understanding your audience, content rich, not stuffing keywords, but just really good content, whether it be funny, whether it be opinionated, whether it be helpful, whether it be educational, whether something that someone actually wants to read, something that actually adds value. Okay, if you were Google, that's what you've got to think. You're Google, and certainly in the UK, I think it's 85% of us use Google. So we trust Google. We trust the search results. We go back and back time and time again to Google to ask a question. And the reason we do that is because Google tries to find us things that it knows are going to add value or give us answers to the questions that we're wanting. It doesn't want to send us to a crap website that doesn't work on a mobile phone. It doesn't want to send us to a website that's really slow. It doesn't want to send us to a website that's just full of keywords. So you've got to think, if you were Google, what would you do? The next thing is you could have the most amazing content in the world. And think of this as a shop, by the way. You could have the most amazing products in the world. But if the car, the people walking past, or Google can't see that shop, see the front door, understand how to come in, understand where inside the shop these products are, then that's a problem. So it's about making the content accessible to the search engine. And here we talk about things like schema, things like markup, things like rich snippets. And we'll go into that a bit later on in this session. And that's about saying to Google, look, this bit of content here is to do with this. And the best, most obvious one to look at is Google recipe search, which we'll look at a bit later on. It's about having stuff that's unique and relevant, so not copying content, and it's about having anything that's popular. If something's popular, then there's a very good chance of it appearing higher in a search engine. It makes sense, doesn't it? Google wants to show you popular stuff. Google wants to show you stuff that other people are engaging with right now. And then it's about good PR. So good PR, traditional PR, but online. So that's about being featured in newspapers, magazines. It's about people talking about you. It's about people talking about you and people linking to you. And what you want is you want lots of people talking about you and linking to you. That demonstrates to Google that you're worthy and there's something of interest there. Lydia's asking a question. Will you show later how to submit a sitemap? No, I won't. Not for any reason, but there's only so much how-to I can fit into this session. You do it inside Search Console. I would Google Search Console, submit sitemap, and there will be a Google page on the instructions on how to do that. SEO community, the SEO community have a love-hate relationship with sitemaps. I probably am on the opinion of not liking them. I've seen too many websites where a sitemap has actually caused a bigger problem. I think if you've got a very good structured website, you shouldn't need a sitemap. So that's about having a really good architecture, really clear menu structure that works well and puts the right things in the right places. Then actually you shouldn't need a sitemap. But it's a 50-50, and I have the hate relationship with sitemaps because I've seen it go wrong too many times and cause too many problems. And don't forget, having gone through that whole penalty side of things, actually sitemaps was one of the things that caused one of the issues. So we've answered that. Get rid of those. Please do keep asking questions, though. So there's two sides to search engine optimization. You've got the website itself, and then you've got everything off the website. So if we look at the website itself first, that's about the keywords. It's about the content. If you want to be found for something in Google, and whenever I say the word Google, by the way, I do mean Bing and Yahoo and DuckDuckGo and all the others. Ask Jeeves, it's not there anymore, is it? But it's I don't know what I was thinking. If you want to be found for a particular phrase or a question, because people are typing more questions into Google now, by the way, way more than phrases and keywords, then it needs to be on your website. You know, it makes sense, doesn't it? Really, you shouldn't stuff it there, but it does make sense that if your website has that question and someone else's doesn't, then your website becomes more relevant. The technical aspect of the website has to be right. It has to be built correctly. Anyone can build a website. It's an unregulated market. Can you imagine that with houses or commercial property? You've got structural engineers, you've got architects, you've got building regulations. Well, websites don't have any of that. Google has guidelines, and my advice is follow the guidelines and listen to them as well. So Google won't talk to you about search engine optimization. They'll talk to you about pay-per-click. But actually, it's a bit of a myth, that, because if you use Google Search Console, which is a free tool, it's free to set up. It's quite easy to validate your website in there and prove that you own the website. Follow the instructions. It's a communication tool where, okay, there's not a real human having a conversation with you, but Google's computers are telling you what it thinks of your website. And there's so much data in there that if it picks something up, my advice is it needs fixing. Because what Google's basically saying to you is, well, you know, we can see your website, but here's some issues that we can see. And if you're not listening to that, then you're not following the guidelines. So my advice is to set up Google Search Console to really help understand the technical aspect of things. And then from a usability point of view, it's common sense. If I'm on a mobile phone and I Google something, Google knows I'm on a mobile phone, and it's only going to want to show me websites that work well on a mobile phone, that people that it can see others have engaged with and engage easily with. So it's got to be easy to use as well. And that's where Google Analytics comes into play. So what you also want to do is feed as much data to Google as well. So some people might say, well, I don't want Google to see all my data. My advice is to let Google see the data. Let Google see that people do come to your website. Let Google see that people look at a few pages, that they fill out a contact form, that they click the phone number, because Google needs to understand what's going on your website to then start thinking, well, should I send more people to that website? Or actually, does everyone just bounce off that website? And okay, we might send less. And it's not just based on bounce rate, by the way, and I can certainly give an opinion on that. But I think the advantage of having Google Analytics installed far outweighs the downside, and it shows Google. It's a way to show Google that people engage on your website. The second side of search engine optimization, the off-site side of things, away from the website, is about PR. It's about what people are saying. It's about who's linking to you. It's about links. And as I said, if you went back many years, it would be the number of links. But the problem with that is it's very easy to get links. It's very easy to get non-relevant links that are from a foreign country that's got absolutely nothing to do with your website. So now it's about the relevancy and the reputation of those links. So is it from a trusted domain name? Is it from the BBC? Brilliant if it could be. Or is it from your professional body? Even better. Where you've got your professional body linking to you, talking about you. Well, that's handy. So it's from a PR point of view, what links can you get? What relationships have you got to generate links, and generate links from a reputable and relevant? And then reviews, what people are saying about you. Google Maps, if I go back to this page here for a second. Okay, I know how to get my mouse back. So if I go back to this page, we can see the map listings here, and you can review businesses in that map listing. Now, if you were Google, wouldn't you use that data? Well, I think you would. And websites that don't have reviews, well, it's not very helpful. So my advice is to make sure that you have reviews on Google Maps. You might also want Trustpilot, TripAdvisor, Facebook, LinkedIn, all those other things. And Google looks at those as well, by the way. However, make sure you've got some on your Google Maps listing. I call it Google Maps, Google Local, Google My Business. It's changed names so many times. Google Plus at one point. Is it currently Google My Business? If you go to google.co.uk/business and make sure you've got a map listing, it's free of charge. It's a local listing. You do need a phone number. You need an address. Theoretically, it should be bricks and mortar. So if you're working from home, you need to put that home address, or you might want to put your accountant's address, maybe the registered office, or you might want to get a virtual office and use that address. And officially, you've got to tick the box that people can come and visit, by the way. So it's up to you whether you do that. But my advice is if you don't do that, it won't let you have the listing. It's not going to suddenly drive people to your house or your registered office. It's just going to allow it to have a listing. Catherine's asking a question. Is it worth having a Google Map listing, even if you have a home-based business? Hopefully, I just answered that question. The short answer is absolutely. If you don't, you're missing out hugely. And by the way, about 20 to 25% of search has a local intent. And when we are looking for things, we do trust things that are in our area. And also, Google wants to show us local results because it knows how human beings work. So local is very, very powerful. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden you're not national or you're not global, but local is very, very valuable and can really help. So if we now think about keywords and content, one of the things that's really worth getting across here is that it's difficult to get to the top for take interior design earlier. It's difficult to get to the top of that. There's so much competition for that particular keyword. So many different organizations, businesses, magazines, all sorts of different things that would be relevant for that particular search. And you could end up paying a lot of money or spending a lot of time to try and chase that particular keyword. My advice is to start thinking about some deeper keywords, some longer tail keywords that we talk about. And that's where people, maybe a phrase, maybe a question that's a bit more specific. And the reason I say this is because, again, if you were to apply common sense from Google's point of view, if you want to be at the top of Google for, let's say, cars, then surely you should already be at the top of Google for things like petrol cars, diesel cars, how to fix a car, how to fill up a car, red cars, green cars, blue cars. Surely for all of those keywords, you should already be at the top of Google if you're going to be at the top of Google for cars. So my advice is to think of long tail keywords. And, this goes back many years. I had a client in the States. They wanted to appear at the top of Google for gift ideas. You can see that, there's a huge monthly search volume, great idea. But, to achieve that was going to be a lot of money. And so we looked at some longer tail keywords, and we found retirement gift ideas for women. Only 1,000 searches, but we then Googled it to see what was being served. And, there was no one really serving that particular phrase back then with anything of any value. So we said, let's create a page that's got gift ideas for women that are retiring. And let's really, focus on that. And lo and behold, it was very easy to get to the top of Google for it, and it was very easy to convert sales on it. So it's about really thinking of, my advice is to think of some deeper keywords, some longer tail keywords, and go to Google and try different phrases and questions, because it starts suggesting them. It starts showing you keywords or phrases or questions that other people are typing in. And as I showed you earlier, when you then do a question, you then start seeing what other people have typed as well, and start thinking about some of those other questions that people are asking. We then move on to the link side of things. So if you imagine it a bit like a spider's web, you imagine that there's lots of different links all coming to your website. Okay. Lots of different layers, lots of different types of links. So you might have links from customers where you've done something really great, and they have a link on their website to say, these are the people that supplied us with whatever. Okay. You might have suppliers that link to you. This is where you can buy this product. You might have associates that link to you. Maybe you're, not a great industry to be in right now with COVID, but maybe you're in the wedding industry. And of course, in that industry, you work with like 20 or 30 different people, from videographers to dance floor people to wedding dresses to venues to all sorts of things. You could all link to each other. Estate agents could link to mortgage brokers, all sorts of different associates. Who could you associate with, and who could they link to you? Trade associations, could they link to you? So there's lots of different, and you've got social media. So all of these, if you think about different layers, what Google wants to see is different types of links, different types of layers being used, and different strengths of quality as well, from sort of some medium stuff. You don't want the low stuff, you want the medium stuff and the high stuff. So, trying to get that BBC link, for example. For people that are looking for link building ideas, there's a slide here which pretty much covers every single base of how to get links. There's an example top right there, calculator. Okay. I have a client who, a family law firm, and they, a law firm. And one of the things they offer is family law. Very early on, they developed a divorce calculator, and they appear very high in Google, if not top of Google, depending on the exact phrase you search and where you are. They appear page one, if not top of Google, pretty much every time. And they simply just built a very easy to use divorce calculator on their website. So it's about really good content and making it accessible to the search engine. And what that then created was people were linking to it. So lots of other lots of financial advisors, lots of different types of organizations saw this calculator and thought, God, that's so much easier. And I'm going back a while when there was no other calculators out there. And they were signposting friends, clients, customers, whatever, to that particular page. So it generated lots and lots of links. So that's just one example, but there's a whole raft of ideas on here, all sorts of different things. But it is about PR. It's about reaching out. It's about creating relationships. It's about asking people, and it's about, and it's not about buying links necessarily, because that goes against Google's guidelines. But at the same time, if you're doing some type of advertising or sponsorship, or maybe joining some kind of directory that's of high quality, then it makes sense. And you're ultimately gaining a link from something that's, hopefully it's got to be relevant and it's got to be trustworthy. Matthew's just said, just been looking at Moz stuff you mentioned. What's the difference between page authority and domain authority? Does one influence the other, or do they work separately? So they work together, but across your website, every page has its own authority. And all of that helps dictate what the domain authority of the website is. So what you theoretically should find is that the homepage in most cases will have the highest page authority, and possibly have a higher page authority than the domain authority. And as you go through the website, different pages will have different page authorities, but it's about understanding the structure of the website. And it's about understanding that, if you've got 10 different services or products, or maybe you've got one service, but we as users call it 10 different things, because that's the thing to understand. We might call it different things, and you've got to understand language. So what you then do is you might have, the homepage then goes off to 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 different sections of the website. And each of those sections should then have a high page authority, because this section here is about X, this section here is about Y. So it's about using the data to then understand if things are working or not from a structure point of view. You've then got different types of content. So here we've got loads of ideas on different types of content, from blogs to podcasts to comments to white papers, how-tos, all sorts of different stuff, checklists. And you could use Google Trends to find keywords that might be trending. BuzzSumo is also very good for that as well. That's another tool. It's a paid-for tool, but it really can help with finding trending topics. And then places to share the content. So just to remind you, you will get a copy of this video. So all of it's on here, and you can pause it, rewind, etc. So don't worry about frantically writing all of this down. But here's lots of ideas on places you can then share that content, from annual reports to email campaigns, email signatures, Twitter, social media, internal comms, staff emails, all sorts of different things. So I think at this stage, what I'd like to do is just go off and start having a look at a couple of these websites, just to give you an idea of some of the tools that I might use. See if I can get my mouse back. There we go. And give you some ideas. So we had, why have I got that one twice? That's no good. So yeah, 3 I had, didn't I? No. What was that one? That's not one. 1 second. So I had Tutor and canonpr.co.uk. Thank you. pr.co.uk. Okay. So some of the things that I'd be looking at straight away from a sort of technical point of view. And if I start with this one here, I've got a little tool here. It's a bit of JavaScript, and what it does is, and if anyone wants this, just email me afterwards and I can send it to you. But it's saved as a bookmark, and what it does is I can click it and it shows me instantly the heading tags on the page. Now I don't know if you know what heading tags are, but heading tags are basically a bit of code, H1, H2, H3, and they tell Google what the titles and subtitles are on the page, and how to and the web developer uses the H1s, H2s, H3s to say, okay, well, all H1 should be this particular font, this particular weight, this particular color, etc. But Google then uses that to understand the importance of different pages. So here we've got I'm on this page. Okay, so it's uniquely different interior design. Okay. And interior design is one of the things that you want to rank for. So let's have a look at what the heading tags are on this page. So here we've got the H2 is uniquely heritage. Now, I don't know if uniquely heritage, is that different slides as well? Let's just have a look at that. Yes, it is. So each of these slides has a H2 tag. So I don't know what keywords people, what keywords you should be thinking about of chasing, but these are sort of subheadings on this page. Then if I scroll down, great. The H1 is uniquely different interior design. I was hoping it was going to be that, because that's basically saying to Google, this page is about uniquely different interior design. We've got some other, however, we've got another H1. So the rule is only have one H1 per page, and every page must have a H1. But here we're saying to Google that this page about interior design, actually, it's about our clients matter. Well, is it a law firm now? Potentially. So this is a really big no-no. Let's not have that as a H1. And as we go deeper into the, let's go into services and have a look at the service page and have a look at the H1. We've got how can we help? Well, the phrase how can we help is just, yes, it might read well. Yes, it's helpful. But thinking of it from an SEO point of view, does it add any SEO value whatsoever to your interior design services? And surely that page should be called something like interior design services or interior design consultation or whatever it might be, something that people are searching that's relevant. So what could you change that to would be my advice. And then if I have a look at this one here, so let's have a look at the H1. So we've got tune to risk. This is a risk management services for business and education. Well, do you know what? I would have thought that is more important to be the H1, because I would have thought that these are the keywords that you're after and not your brand name. So I would have thought I'd swap that round. And let's just have a quick look at the other one. So here we've got South Yorkshire's public relations specialist. Sounds good. Starts well. H3s, H2s. But then it kills itself here with another H1, which is our services. Well, that's not relevant. It's not got any keyword value whatsoever. So we'd look at changing that. And we've got another one, our latest news and views. So that's just one thing to consider, H1 tags. The next thing to consider is the meta tags. So each page of your website has a meta title and a meta description, or it can have. And what this basically says to Google is, this is the behind the scenes in the code. It says to Google, this is the title of the page. This is the description of the page. And I've got a little tool here. If you Google SEO Bookmarklet by Troy Meir, you'll be able to get this little tool. Matthew's asking a question. Can you have more than one H2, H3? You can have multiple H2s, H3s, H4s, etc., etc. Absolutely, but only one H1 per page. The SEO Bookmarklet, so what this does is it just simply pulls out of the code the title and the description. So just to be clear, this is already in the code. So if I have a look at the code here, we can see it here and we can see the description. But of course, it's just a lot easier for me to not have to read the code and just have a look here. And what I'm looking at here is, have we got keywords in it? So, PR agency, good. Driven results, public relations, brilliant. Let's have a look at the risk one and have a look at the meta title and description. Risk compliance, risk management. Keywords, by the way, you do not need to fill this out at all. If you spend any time whatsoever inserting keywords into your meta keywords tag, then you are wasting time, because Google, Bing, and all of them have categorically said they totally ignore the meta keywords tag because it's too easy to spam it. And what they're really interested in is what's in the content itself. So if I go into the services page and I have a look at the SEO tag on this page, so this is the risk health. So just go back to that risk health check service. So, what's the keyword that people might be typing into Google there? I'm not sure myself. But here we've got Tune to Risk provides a range of risk-based services. Well, I would have thought that the most important part of this title should be at the beginning. And I would have thought that, and what type of risk? So this is risk management. Yeah, risk management services. So I would have thought that page there should have a title that's sort of, risk management services, maybe. and the meta title here would be Risk Management Services provided by Tune to Risk Limited. And then you could go into a bit more detail here. And by the way, these meta titles and descriptions are exactly what's used 50% of the time, management services, by Google here. So, sorry, that's the advert, so we'll ignore those ads. But here, that is the meta title and that is the meta description. So it needs to be written in a, you've got your chance to write your own advert here. So my advice is to write it in a way that reads well, that is more likely to get people to convert, but think about keywords as well. And you need to think about this on every single page of the website. And a great tool, by the way, for checking this, I'll see if I can bring it up now, just quickly, is something called Screaming Frog. And if I take, just as an example, go away. I've got let's get rid of that. I've got Zoom in the way now. So if I take, let's go back to this website here, and I take that website and I put it into this tool here. What it does is it crawls the entire website, it has a look at it, and it turns it into an Excel sheet, which I love Excel sheets. And so it's just so much easier to manage and understand. So I put the URL in, I tell it to start crawling like a Google bot, Google Spider, and start having a look at the website. And here what it's doing is it's collecting all the different pages across the website. So I think I've chosen a website that's not got lots of pages. And here it's showing me that the pages are opening fine, so that's good. I can see the URL, but what I can also see is the meta titles. So here we've got the meta titles, and I can also see the meta descriptions. So this is a very good way to be able to look at your entire website in a quick go. You can export this into Excel. But it's about thinking about what's relevant. So here we've got, the portfolio. Have a look at portfolio, and we've got portfolio completed interior design projects. Not bad. It's got the word interior design, and we've got VA heritage interior design projects with a range, blah, 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 blah. So we've thought about it, and these are important things. And Google uses this data to show it on Google's homepage. When I then Google something, this is what's typically leading this content here. So let me just think of a couple of other tools that I would look at. I'd look at, just got a question there. Are you penalized for writing more characters in the meta description and titles than what is asked for? You're probably not penalized, but my advice is to try and keep them to a sort of limit. So, if you have a look at this tool here, it suggests that's blocked on Google. So it's suggesting a title. Where's it gone? Hold on. Yeah, there we go. A title of 70 and a description of 155. Yoast has its own recommendation. Sort of keep to that. The simple thing is think about this. How many words can you fit there? How many words can you fit there? That's the real answer. And you wouldn't get necessarily penalized for it. But, if you put like 5 paragraphs of text in there, then yeah, Google would start questioning it. A few characters, a few extra even an extra sentence, I wouldn't even think twice about it. But Yoast makes you, worry about it and all sorts. But I wouldn't worry too much about it. I was going to show you a couple of other tools. So mobile friendly tests. So you can basically take your website and you can put it into a test here. And as I said earlier, Google really only wants to show mobile friendly websites. It's come out and said categorically that it's mobile first index now. So it's looking at where you rank from a mobile point of view. So you can run that. And good news, it's come out friendly, but then there will be some data that you could look at there, and you could work with your your developer to see if you can make any things better there. The other tools that you could look at would be, if I take this website here, GT metrics. So we all want websites that load fast. This is a great website that has a look at the speed of your website. Google has its own page speed tool as well, which I'll just quickly show you. So if I just Google Google Page Speed. Here is another tool that we can use, and we can put it into there, and we can run that as well, and we get a score. It's quite difficult, I must tell you, especially if you've got, for example, a WordPress site, to get really high scores here. But what some of the key metrics you're looking at, and we'll just wait for this one to load, is ideally you want sub 5 seconds as an absolute sort of maximum. So here we've got 5.6. So what we'd look at doing is trying to reduce that to below 5 and trying to increase the grade here. And there's a whole raft of data lower down the page, and my advice is just, you know, get a developer, have a conversation with them, speak to them about what they can and can't fix. You are going to have to spend a bit of money on this if you're wanting to improve your score within Google. So that would be something else to look at. And if we look at the page score here, 8 out of 100 on mobile, 50 out of 100 on desktop. To give you some idea, I know I was saying it was difficult to get high scores, especially with something like WordPress, but you could easily get 70 out of 100 on desktop, and you could easily get 60 out of 100 on mobile. So there's quite a way to go there on speeding things up. And again, if you scroll down, you'll get some advice on some of the things that can be done to improve that page. The other thing that people don't consider is, oh, I didn't mean to do that. I'll go to this one. The other thing that people don't consider is where the website is hosted. So we can have a look at a site like this that has a look at the IP address of the website. So this is just reverse domain tools is the .com, the reverse IP lookup tool. And here we can find out the IP address of the server that this website is sat on. And then what we can do is we can take that IP address into a tool like this, hackertarget.com reverse IP lookup. We can put that IP address in, and we can find all the websites that are on that server. Now, you can see here that, where's my thing gone? Oh, sorry. So you can see I'm scrolling to the bottom here, and we're still on 0, and it's in alphabetical order. So I'm guessing there's hundreds of thousands of websites on here. I don't know if it's a Wix website, and if it is, then that could then you're sort of stuck with that. But the issue that you've got here is that Google looks at this data, and it can see that you are on a network with all these other websites. And I'm guessing, just looking at some of the websites right in front of me there, that there will be lots of spammy websites. There'll be lots of probably virus websites in there. There might be some pornographic websites in there. Do you want to be associated with those? And I'm guessing not. And so from a Google point of view, again, just applying some common sense, it's sort of looking at, you know, how much are you spending for your hosting? It's not just about the cost of it, but it's about the quality of it. And it's about, you know, how serious is this website, and why is it in a pool of all these websites? And those can make big differences on rank factors. Don't know if any of you've got any other questions. I want to go back to the slides for a moment, because I just want to talk to you about a few other bits. So I don't know if this will play.
In the past, getting the #1 position in search results was the ultimate goal for ambitious marketers. But Google has reset the starting point. And now, position 0, known as the featured snippet, is the one with the authority. So, what is a featured snippet?
So this came about a couple of years ago. This is content that's at the top of Google, and it's sort of above the organic listings. So there's 10 organic listings on a page, but there's now 11 on most pages, and it's this top result here. So I've done a search, it's shown me a result at the top. The table below shows businesses in the UK. This here is that featured snippet, and it's typically the answer that's given on voice search as well, depending on what's been asked. Now, currently, there's a few different styles that can be in that featured snippet, and good SEO gets you into this featured snippet. And so if you can understand how that works, it can only improve the rest of your website. So those are just some examples of how they look. Paragraphs make up about 63% of featured snippets. Lists make up just short of 20%. And then you've got tables that make up 16%. So you can just see the different types of content there that sits in a featured snippet. So the position 0, it gives you branding, you can have an image, and it gets you clicks. So how do you get into that featured snippet? Well, the thing about voice search is that we speak, how we speak and how we write is totally different. It's about conversational content. Now, this doesn't help you just win on voice search. It categorically helps you win on page of Google, because it shows those featured snippet. But it's about understanding that the language is very different. It's about more the questions, the conversation. So if we went back many years, and I was just, this was a real life example. My son was doing some homework, needed a picture of a red lobster. Well, I'd have just Googled red lobster. He picks up his phone and he says, "Show me images of a red lobster." It's a very different way of talking. If I was looking for a good restaurant in Manchester, best restaurants in Manchester. No, hey Google, where's the best place to eat in Manchester? All of a sudden, we've got the word place, the word eat. The word best was there. Best digital camera. Well, Alexa, where can I find a waterproof video camera that works with Facebook Live? So we go into much deeper content, and it's about that conversational content, about those longer phrases, about those longer questions that we need to start thinking about to include in our content. And Google spent a lot of money on this. Google's AI has been reading 3,000 romance novels to improve its conversational searchability. That's how it's starting to understand conversation, by looking at romance novels. So how do you win at this? Well, it's still about the basics. It's about great content. It's about ensuring the content is accessible to the search engine. It's about making pages unique and relevant and making the content popular. We've already talked about this. It's about the on-site side of things, the keywords, the content, the technical aspect. It's about the off-site side of things, the relevancy, the links, the reviews, the reputation. We've talked about this. We started it at the beginning. It's also about mobile. Not mobile first, it's about mobile full stop. It's about really understanding mobile. It's about focusing on mobile, focusing on how it is to use a phone, how it would look. When you're looking on, this is Google Chrome, and let's go back to this website. I can simply here, just quickly refresh the page. I can go to this little button here, and I can go to more tools and developer tools. And inside here, I can click this button, which shows me the mobile version of this website. And my advice is to be always looking at the mobile version of your website and really thinking about it. Does that picture look wrong? I'm guessing it's not like that on the desktop version. Is this, too much to scroll through? And this, you've really got to consider mobile all the time. It's not bad, but just some things to consider there. The next thing is, as we've already talked about, longer tail keywords, and there's a load of tools here that you could use. Some of them are paid for, and I mentioned BuzzSumo, the bottom left one earlier. That's a really good tool for coming up with questions and topics. And people also ask. I talked about that earlier. When you type a question in, it gives you other questions that people have asked. That's a great place to get. Andrew's asked a question. My website in GTmetrix is getting grade D, performance 56, structure 84. Very good. It wasn't a question; it was more of a statement, but that's good. And let's try and get grade C. In conversational content, use words like who, what, where, how, best way to, how to, what is the best. Set up FAQ questions. Google has specifically come out and said it likes FAQ questions, and it has something called Schema, which we'll get onto in a slide in a moment. And what that does is it says to Google, look, this is an official question and this is an official answer. This is about the accessibility, making it easy for Google to understand the content. So let's talk about Schema. Schema. The easiest way to understand Schema is Googling a recipe. And what you'll find highlighted in the red there is these things have been pulled out. On the spicy chicken pasta at the top there, you can see that it's got the 1 hour. And what that is the cook time. So if I went onto that recipe, you'll see that the BBC Good Food say it takes an hour to cook. You'll see the one underneath, it's got 15 minutes and it's got calories 531. Now, the only reason that this data is there is because both of these websites, or it's the same website, have said to Google, look, this is the cook time. They've made it really abundantly clear to Google using Schema. Now, it might be called structured data, rich snippets, markup, featured snippets, microformats, microdata, RDFs, all sorts of different things. But if you go to schema.org, there's lots and lots of different types of schema. An example of question and answer schema, for any of the more technical people out there, this is HubSpot did some testing, and HubSpot found that for paragraphs to get into that featured snippet at the top, for paragraphs, use a H2 for the question and a paragraph tag for the answer. For lists, use a H2 for the question and a bullet point for the answer. There's loads of different types of schemas. Review schema, organization schema, local business schema. In local business schema, you can say this is the official address, this is our official Twitter account, this is our official logo. E-commerce, you can say this is the product, this is the price, this is the selling price, this is the postage, this is the reviews. Event schema, this is the name of the event, this is the date, this is the location, this is the price. Recipes, this is the cook time, this is the calories, this is the ingredients. Jobs, this is the salary, this is the title of the job. There's so many different types of schemas, and they're making more and more all the time. So, for example, there's schemas for dentists specifically, there's schemas for accountants specifically. So if you're a profession, there might be a schema that you need to say, the schema for vets. So if you've got a vet website, you can use some vet schema that says to Google, this is a vet website. This is our official Twitter account. This is our official address. And it's difficult to help you explain how you implement this, I'm afraid. You probably do need a developer, but it's nothing more than a bit of code wrapped around the content. It's a bit of code, a bit like the H2 tag, a bit like the H1 tag. It's a bit of code that's wrapped around that says, look, Google, this is what this is about. I talked earlier about intent and about thinking about keywords and making them, not just Canon cameras, but will I need thinking about being implicit, using the location, the device, the past browsing history. And it's about really understanding how Google wants to show you results that are more relevant to you. I am going to finish. I'm maybe just a minute behind. I apologize. Optimizing for Google for local. So I was saying earlier that 20% of voice search is for local intent. Well, that's the same as typing, by the way. So how can you optimize that? It's about having a Google business page, that Google My Business, google.com/business. It's about getting reviews. It's about using local business schema. It's about adding photographs into your Google listing and thinking about the keywords. So is there a dry cleaner? That's the keyword. I can trust. That's the positive reviews. Near me, that's the local markup. Position 0, there's currently only one winner. Anyone not doing anything will lose out, and it's a limited time because Google's going to work out how to monetize this. I've come to the end. I don't know if any of you had more questions, but you're welcome to email me. There's loads more events. Don't disappear. I've just got a couple of things to tell you. Please wait a moment. There's lots more events coming up that I'm running. There's about 6 or 7 more. You'll see them on the yorkshiremafia.com/events. You'll also, a shameless plug very quickly. I run a podcast, and it would be fabulous to have you as a listener if you fancy joining me. I'll pop this in the chat box in a second, and then a couple more things. We've got a Facebook group if you're looking to network or learn more. So that's on Facebook. We set it up right at the beginning of COVID, the first lockdown, and it's a great place to be inspired and learn from other like-minded entrepreneurs. And lastly, if you think this is a load of nonsense, then please challenge me. There's my contact details. I'll throw them in the chat. Please do feel free to find me on LinkedIn. And also, when I close this down, you'll get a survey, and it's really valuable for me for you to fill that out and tell me what you think. Dom has already said, thanks, Jonny. Great stuff as usual, which is really, really kind. I really appreciate it. And I think we are at the end of time, so I'm going to close this if that's okay. But thank you so much for being here. Hopefully that helped you. And please fill out the survey when this closes. And that's all from me today, and I'll hope to see you next time. I think there's something next week. So thanks again, and all of you take care and get home safely, or stay at home, or whatever it might be. I'll see you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye.